Namah Shivaya, and welcome to another meditation practice. We've had some really interesting ideas and thoughts and concepts that we've kind of introduced our meditation to, like this idea of dualism and non-dualism, which is very limited to teaching yoga and yoga meditation. Why? Because not all people believe in God. There are people out there that have profound spiritual practices that don't believe that there is a force out there that is what we call God, or that if it is there, it's not as important as other traditions like to make it. In fact, Buddhism sees the divine very much that way. It could exist, it could not exist. It's a personal opinion, but you can believe or not believe. So if when you're talking, we're teaching things, a lot of times we become very limited in our ability to teach, and we only start teaching to a small population, or the population that we see in front of us. A lot of times, it's kind of called preaching to the choir, right? That's what they kind of say, and where I'm from, like, if the minister is talking to everybody who has already converted, who's already involved deeply in the service, and is kind of forgetting that there are people out there that don't prescribe to whatever they're talking about, or they don't really are new, and they don't understand, and they haven't formed ideas and concepts and opinions, and you're kind of leaving them out in the cold. So when we talk about this idea of dualistic and non-dualistic, we also have to kind of accept that there are many people who have profound, deep spiritual practices that don't find this idea of identification with divinity very important. And who am I or anybody else to judge whether that's right or wrong, right? Each person has to come to the practice where they are and what path they're on. And what's a good path for me may not be a good path for someone else. I know that in my lifetime I've had very, very deep periods where I questioned whether there was a God, or whether it was a God I wanted to associate with, even when I was a young man, especially after I left the South in the 80s and moved to New York. The relationship with God and who I was told God was, which was a father-like figure who was judgmental and punished those that didn't see that life should be the same as what his followers see it as. I disassociated myself with spirituality almost completely. I was so disillusioned with the concept of a relationship to the divine that I joined the American agnostics, who were fighting at the time. It was during the George Bush Jr. years of his presidency. We're fighting really actively for a separation between church and state, and this was at that time when they were starting to give government funding to religious schools and charter schools who had religious ideology, and they were really fighting to keep that separation between church and state, right? Um, That's an interesting battle in this country, right? Because, the Republicans at that time did everything they could to blend church and state. And just yesterday, you had the Attorney General of the United States during this administration, the Trump administration, question whether the state could close down churches. So, there are those of us like myself who are total liberals who think that church and state should be completely separate at all times. There are right-wing conservatives in this country that want to pick and choose when the church can be involved in the state and when the state should be out of the church's business. I actually think that's very, very, very dangerous, because what you end up with is a kind of fascist government that is involved with religious doctrine to manipulate the public. I got sidetracked there on my original discussion, but here again, when we even talk about this separation of church and state, it actually goes back into what I was talking about, which is, teaching from the point of dualism and non-dualism, always forgetting that there's somebody out there who doesn't have that relationship to the divine. So we can even take that into society. If government always has a relation with church and takes cues from religious organizations, what does government do with those that don't have that relationship to God? Well, historically, they've always persecuted and subjugated and made them the target of everything from conspiracy theories to heretics. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on throughout history. So in reality, what we have to do is we have to see that that spirituality is a personal thing. Like I said, I went through my journey. I kind of eliminated spirituality from my life, and then around 45 years old, I had kind of an epiphany and a change of heart, and realized that I didn't have to involve myself with like the church. I didn't have to involve myself with the agnostics of America. This relationship that I had was personal, and I really didn't have to explain it or answer to anyone about it. Now I did become a teacher, and a teacher that teaches a spiritual tradition of yoga. But I also use that platform to continuously tell people and express to people that they have to establish that relationship. I can't do it for them. I can't tell them what that relationship should be. I do teach from the point of view I teach from. Now, because that's what I can convey certain passions about. That inspires people. Your personal passions will inspire people. But what's interesting is when I look at many of the students who are consistent with coming to things that I teach, I have this really broad spectrum of people who come. Some of them are atheists, some of them are agnostics, some of them are devout, dualistic kind of yogis who think that idea that God and they are kind of slightly separated, and then other people who really want to embrace that idea of the oneness of being. But I end up having such a broad cross section of practitioners because I'm very liberal and open to the concept that there could be many different paths that lead to the same goal, and that one path doesn't fit all. That idea. If you ever gone to the store and you've bought those clothing items that say one size fits all or one size fits most, and you get it home and you always realize it doesn't really fit. It's either way too big or too long or too short, but it just doesn't really work. Not even when it's a bathrobe, right? You get the one size all bathrobe, and it's if you're 5'4" like I am, it's dragging the floor, and you have to take it to the tailor and have it shortened because they made it for somebody who was 6'4". And you get the bathrobe, and the one size fits most, and you're a female who's a 5'4" petite, and you realize that you're just you're swimming in something that's just way too big for you. So it doesn't really work. The concept's a nice concept, but one size fits all, one size fits most doesn't work at all. And it definitely doesn't work within spirituality, because I did bring up that idea of government mixing in with religion and spirituality. And let's be honest, government ends up mixing with religion. They don't mix they don't search out spirituality. There's a difference between religion and spirituality. Government involves itself with organized institutionalization of religion. So we realize that that fits very few people. It only fits the very small group that government is trying to service at that time. I would be concerned with this little notion that the Attorney General wants to throw out there, that religious organizations and institutions are not they don't have to abide by the rules of a pandemic. If that be the case, they should not be involved with federal funding. They should not be involved with any other government activities. They should be completely separate, but not kind of sort of separate. We should do all we can to ensure that kind of play for pay kind of thing that's going on with right-wing religious institutions and right-wing government start to really cease and stop. Just taking a moment, setting up for meditation. And here again, like when I give you, I choose, I should also explain, and I've been trying to explain why I want to you to meditate on Om, is because Om has that same quality as Amen. It has the quality of just being this Om, a beginning, a middle, an end, a cycle, a vibration. It could mean everything to you. It could mean nothing to you. It could mean just a point of focus. It could also mean that sound of divinity. So it has enough flexibility that you can start to bring a personal relationship to it that doesn't have to be my relationship. So setting up tall, and close your eyes and allow the breath to deepen, and draw the senses inward. The sight by closing the eyes, the hearing comes inward, the smell, the touch, the taste, the mind along with it. And as you inhale deep, And exhale completely. Allow the mind to calm or relax. Allow the agitations of the mind to subside. Allow the breath and the calmness of the breath to help control the mind. And as you inhale, hear the sound of Om within yourself. And acknowledge that calming effect on the mind that the sound of Om has. As you exhale, hear the sound of Om within yourself. And acknowledge that calming effect upon the mind that the sound of Om has. As you inhale the sound of Om, see the symbol of Om within the mind's eye. As you exhale, see the symbol of Om within the mind's eye. Continue to see and hear the sound of Om within yourself. Continue to see and hear the sound of Om as you exhale. Continue the deep inhales. And deep exhales. Continue this on your own internally, hearing, seeing the sound of Om in deep inhales and exhales, uniting that with the sound of Om. Deep inhales, deep exhales. Continue to hear the sound of home on the inhale. Continue to hear the sound of Om on the exhale. Silently tell yourself, I am not this body. Silently tell yourself, I am not this mind. Silently tell yourself, I am not these thoughts. Silently tell yourself, I am not these emotions. Silently tell yourself, you are infinity, eternal, and everlasting. Inhale deeply for the sound of Om. Bringing the hands together, building heat within the hands. Bring the hands over the eyes. Let the heat from the hands be absorbed into the eyes. Gently open the eyes. Bring the hands across the forehead, the top of the head, the back of the neck. Bringing the hands together in prayer, bowing down, bringing the forehead to touch the thumbs. Namaste. Thank you guys so much for being here today. And I will see you again tomorrow. Be love and have